Hi, I'm Laura Klopp, and in this podcast, Creating Safe Schools, I'll be exploring ways that teachers and administrators can make their schools as safe, welcoming, and affirming as possible. I'll interview members of the LGBTQ community to allow them to share their experiences and to allow us as allies to learn from them. I'll talk with legal experts, administrators, teachers, and we'll hear from the students themselves. Together, we can do our part to ensure that every student at school feels safe, confident, and secure. For more information on this topic, visit creatingsafeschools.com. Hi, and welcome to this edition of Creating Safe Schools. Today I'm going to talk about the concept of parents' rights. One thing that many of the proponents of the Don't Say Gay law in Florida and similar laws and bills making their way across the country say is that it all has to do with parents' rights. I did an interview today with Swedish TV about the Don't Say Gay law and how it affects Florida students and how Florida teachers will react. The interviewer asked me, well, what about parents' rights? And I don't think the answer I gave was wrong. What I said was that all parents have rights. Yes, the angry parents who don't want LGBTQ children or people or issues mentioned in schools, they have some rights. But the parents who support LGBTQ issues and students and people also have rights. And the conversation about parents' rights shouldn't always be geared in such a way that it sounds like one group of parents has rights, but the other group of parents does not. However, I've been thinking about my answer since then, since the interview, and I've realized it's not complete. Because what one group of parents wants to do is deny the existence of an entire group of people to everyone below a certain age level. So they're trying to say you don't have the right to be mentioned. And they're trying to say that all the kids who aren't their kids don't have the right to know about the history of LGBTQ people, don't have a right to be told about the risks of bullying towards LGBTQ children. You might say, well, that's not true. They say that the right is to prevent their children from being indoctrinated or sexualized. That's what the right is really about. It's not about just talking about people being gay. But if you read the amendments that were proposed for this law, Senator Lauren Book of Florida proposed an amendment that would seek to carve out exceptions to the bill to allow discussion of sexual orientation and gender identity as they pertain to family structures, objective historic events, bullying prevention, and a student's individual education plan, their IEP. If this was truly a law that was passed to prevent sexualization of children, why would everyone not have been on board with allowing discussion of family structures that contain LGBTQ family members? Why would talking about bullying and the risk of bullying and ways to prevent bullying for LGBTQ students have not been allowed? Why would the mention of historical events concerning LGBTQ people not be allowed? Those issues are not sexualization issues. Those issues are talking about the fact that LGBTQ people exist and have families and have existed through history and are at risk for bullying. All of those things are true. So what I'm going to say when we talk about parents' rights is parents don't have the right to erase truth. Parents have the right to want the things that are taught to their kids to be true and accurate and, yes, age appropriate. If it is age appropriate to talk about a family that has a mom and a dad, then it is equally age appropriate to talk about a family that has two dads or two moms or any combination of parents. If it is age appropriate to talk about a historical figure who might have been married to the opposite sex, then it's okay and age appropriate to talk about a historical figure who might have been married to someone of the same sex. And there is no no rational explanation at all that you cannot discuss bullying and bullying prevention for every single student, regardless of their sexual orientation and gender identity, at every single grade level. To not do so is bordering on criminal. So do parents have the right for their children to not be indoctrinated? Yes. But that wasn't happening. Do parents have the right for the education that their children receive be age appropriate? Absolutely. Parents do not have the right to erase people. It would be as if you had the right to only mention one religion and not mention even the existence of any other religion. We do not. No parent has the right to erase history, to erase truth, to erase people, or to erase the basic rights of every child in school to talk about and share their family and to be treated equally with every other student in school. If you can't talk about your family, if you can't talk about your own gender identity or sexual orientation, you're not being treated equally. So when the topic turns to parents' rights, say, yeah, parents have rights. Every parent of an LGBTQ child has the right for that child to go to school in a supporting, loving, and caring environment that acknowledges that child's existence, that child's full existence, that acknowledges that child's being and respects that child for who they are. Now let's look at some of the other amendments that were not passed in Florida. Senator Gary Farmer proposed an amendment that would have changed a different statute on health education, requiring schools to teach about the benefits of monogamous marriage instead of heterosexual marriage. That was voted down. Florida schools are required to teach the benefits of heterosexual marriage. Senator Janet Cruz, a Democrat, proposed an amendment that would have required schools to protect the categories of gender identity and sexual orientation. That was voted down. Senator Chevron Jones introduced an amendment changing language, banning discussion on gender identity and sexual orientation in a way that is not age appropriate, for language banning conversations intended to change a student's sexual orientation or gender identity. That would have been fine to be in a law because teachers do not intend to change students' sexual orientation or gender identity. Good teachers work to support students in their personal growth and whatever sexual orientation and gender identity they are. An amendment introduced by Senator Randolph Bracey would have allowed discussions about gender identity between transgender, gender nonconforming, non-binary, and LGBTQ students with their peers. That was voted down. Lori Stewart introduced an amendment that would have mandated the Department of Education to create a pamphlet helping parents teach students about sexual orientation and gender identity. That was voted down. This bill is not intended to protect children from LGBTQ indoctrination or sexualization. This bill is intended to prevent any discussion or exploration or understanding of the fact that LGBTQ people exist in our community. That's not okay. In conjunction with, certainly not separate from, Florida's recent passage of the Don't Say Gay law, the Florida Department of Health recently released an advisory titled Treatment of Gender Dysphoria for Children and Adolescents, released on April 20th, 2022, completely going against virtually every respected, established medical organization, such as the American Academy of Pediatrics, such as the National Association of Social Workers. Here, I'll read you a list. Going against the guidance of, to include, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the Endocrine Society, the Journal of the American Medical Association, the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, the Pediatric Endocrine Society, the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, and the National Association of Social Workers. Florida has introduced guidance which inaccurately says, due to the lack of conclusive evidence and the potential for long-term irreversible effects, the department's guidelines are as follows. Social gender transition should not be a treatment option for children or adolescents. Do you know what social gender transition is? That means socially being called by their preferred pronouns. That means being called by their preferred name. Being called by your preferred pronoun has long-term, irreversible effects. That is ridiculous. They also say anyone under 18 should not be prescribed puberty blockers or hormone therapy. Puberty blockers and their effect are reversible. They've been used by the Dutch for decades. Their use is well tested, it's safe, and the effects are reversible. Florida has recently withdrawn from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's survey of students' mental health. Why? Why would Florida, shortly after instituting this harmful law, encouraging these harmful practices of denying children the right to be themselves, why would they suddenly not want the mental health of the children of Florida measured? Why would they not want it compared to previous years and compared to the mental health of children in more affirming states? Governor DeSantis knows these actions will hurt children. He knows children's mental health will suffer. He doesn't care. He just wants to hide that. If there's no study, who's going to know? They can deny it's hurting children as long as they don't have numbers. There will be numbers. The CDC won't do a survey. Other people will do surveys. Other people will speak to youth in Florida. The dangerous mental health effects of Florida's recent actions will be documented. And what are we going to do about it? If they want to have a war, if they want to have a culture war, if they want enemies, why do they have to pick on children? Why do they have to pick on the most marginalized, bullied, frequently defenseless group of children? Does that make them feel powerful or important? Governor DeSantis, do you feel powerful when you take down a transgender child? Because it doesn't make you look powerful. It makes you look weak. It makes you look cruel. I like to think, I've always thought, that deep down, most people are good. Most people generally want what's best for other people. But sometimes you really have to wonder. Sometimes you look at people whose only actions seem to be designed to instill hate and fear, and you wonder if power or influence or money or some feeling of superiority in their heads is worth the pain and the fear and the self-hate that they're working to perpetuate. Let's be better. Let's protect our children. They need us, not to judge them, but to affirm them. I'm going to end with actual science, not Joseph A. Ladapo, MD, PhD, State Surgeon General of the state of Florida, bogus pseudoscience, but actual science. Science by scientists, not politically motivated. According to a peer-reviewed study recently published in the Journal of Adolescent Health in 2021, youth presenting for medical treatment of gender dysphoria at earlier developmental stages, i.e. early versus late puberty, endorse lower rates of depression, anxiety, and suicidality, and higher body esteem and life satisfaction. This highlights the need to improve access to early medical treatment to attenuate mental health risk. That's what the science says. Parents don't have the right to deny the science. If they want to keep their children in the dark about a significant portion of our society, about the historical achievements of the LGBTQ community, about LGBTQ families, they have that right. They need to keep their children at home. But LGBTQ kids have every bit as much right to have their lives explored, understood, and celebrated in every grade. Thank you for listening. As always, stay safe and be kind. And have a great day. I'm Laura Klopp. You can Hear more podcasts at creatingsafeschools.com/podcasts or search Creating Safe Schools wherever you get your podcasts. Bye now.